This jumps out at me a lot. Where else in our life do we abdicate someone else controlling it and get the results that we want that are most valuable for us? It'd be like me going, hey, Brock, I want to be 6'3", 198 and be able to bench 245 10 times, but I'm going to need you to go to the gym for me and take care of that. Just let me know how it goes, and then I'll benefit from it. We don't do this anywhere else in our life.
You know, one thing people need to understand is that the government doesn't create value. The value is created by the people, because if it wasn't for us and our tax dollars and everything like that, the government doesn't produce anything. So if it wasn't for us producing, then the government wouldn't really even have anything to work with to begin with.
I think that really needs to make us aware of the fact that we've got to be diligent with our money. We have to actually pay attention to what's going on and be intentional about the moves that we make. Because of the fact of, if we just looked at Social Security, for example, Social Security is supposedly going to be gone by 2035. Well, that's just, 10 years away from now?
Welcome to the Cash Flow Legends podcast with your hosts, Nate, Brandon, and Brock. Remember, our insights are not direct financial advice, so consult with your financial team before making any decisions based on the topics discussed in this show.
Welcome back to Cash Flow Legends. Nate, Brock, and I are so excited to be here, and we are really looking forward to our conversation today and just talking about the government. But we'll come back to that in just a minute. Yes, we said we're excited, and the government in the same sentence. We are recording a couple of days before Christmas. And I don't know when this is going to come out. I think it'll be a little bit after Christmas. But I wanted to start you guys off with a question in regard to what is the most impactful gift at any age in your life that you remember receiving that just made an impression on you for whatever reason. And this, I didn't give them a heads up of what I was looking for because I'm not. I was really just curious so that the listeners can understand how you guys are wired.
That was a lot deeper question than what you said you were going to prepare.
Well, I didn't tell you. I can't tell y'all everything before we hit record because it misses out on some of the shock factor.
I will tell you that my most memorable gift on a Christmas was my first cell phone. It was a red flip phone. I can see it right now.
Uh-huh.
That one was a fun one because I had been waiting on it for a long, long time.
Brock, how young were you then?
I don't know. I was either in the 4th or 5th grade, maybe 6th grade.
So a couple years ago.
So right around that same time, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but the most excited I've ever been about a gift I received was Christmas Day. We're opening presents. There's this one present that my dad won't let us open. It just says from Santa. And so finally we get through opening everything and he's like, all right, why don't y'all open that one? And we open it up and it's a helmet. And we're like, what the heck? A helmet? And we're like, why do we need a helmet? And about the same time, my dad said, hey, why don't you go get some more wood for the fire off the back porch? And so I opened the back door and there's a go-kart sitting there. And me and my brother, we just lost it. We thought that was the coolest thing ever.
That's awesome.
What about you, Brandon?
The thing I remember the most, gift giving is not one of my love languages, if you're familiar with or gift receiving with the 5 love languages, but it is my wife's. But what I remember the most is walking out. It's probably around 1988, 1990.
Wow.
Stop. Fair enough. I had a young joke earlier. Okay. I remember walking into the living room and walking to the kitchen and seeing one of those old school huge computers. And one of the games I remember playing on it was Snake, like eventually was on the phone. And for whatever reason, that sticks out to me. I don't know why, because my parents will tell us, we never really wanted for anything. They prioritized their kids and we got a lot of things we probably didn't need to get, but they always made it work. But we were by no means wealthy. So I think in my mind, we had hit it big time by the time we had a computer. I don't know. That's the best way I can think about it.
It reminds me of Nate Bargatze stand-up bit where he says something about owning a computer back when we were kids. You had to be a trillionaire,
Yeah. Now it comes in your pocket called a phone. That's so good.
But he said he just remembers like the first time he got a computer and how excited they were. And I feel that too. Like personal computers in the house were a big deal when we were kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Brock, you probably had computers by the time you started, needing one. It wasn't a big deal for you, I'm imagining.
Correct.
Yeah.
I do remember. I remember the first touchscreen phone that came out, the BlackBerry Storm.
Uh-huh.
I remember the person who first got it in our school. I
Okay.
remember texting. I remember all that.
Okay. Okay. That's
iPods,
cool.
iPhones, all of it.
That's cool. The reason I asked that question was because yesterday at church, we were going through and visiting about a certain topic, and we were in Luke. And, I know that we know this if we know the Lord is our personal Lord and Savior, but it's really the greatest gift that was ever given freely, that we get to choose if we want to accept it or not, which is the epitome of a gift. There's a giver and there's a receiver. And so it was just a great reminder for us to pause in our Sunday school classes. We were talking and going, if we really want to go back to the greatest gift ever, that's the best place to start, the best place to be reminded of, the best place to put in the thought process of everything else we do and the hustle and bustle. And when it gets busy, we've already been given the greatest gift ever. And the crazy thing is, he loves us so much that we get to choose if we want to receive it or not, which is pretty powerful. So hope everybody listening today is excited about what gifts they have received, maybe already, since this will probably come out after Christmas, and what they're excited about, that the gifts the Lord's given them to really be utilized to glorify his kingdom, because those are gifts as well. So let's make a real rough segue into this, the government and why they won't save you. But I want us to lean in and not just go why they won't save you, but what do we do about that, and why is it so important for us to become the hero in our story? And guys, I want to hear your thoughts and maybe something recent about financial systems and aha moments. Okay. So we think about financial systems. If they were truly secure, why would so many people be struggling? If they were truly the best thing you could possibly do, depending on Social Security or, things that the government's created, why are so many people struggling while they rely on these external systems to kind of build their own stability? And then they get to the end of retirement or beginning of retirement, they go, this isn't what I thought it was. So let's kind of break it down in that essence first, is why is that the case?
Well, one immediate thought that I have is the government in a lot of situations creates problems that they then turn around and create solutions for, just so that they appear to stay relevant to people's lives and things like that. There's a lot of things that if they would just take their hands off of it, we would be a lot better off, but they choose to keep their hands on certain things. And because of that, we have this political system where they're always, leveraging the current circumstances in order to benefit their situation or something like that, or keep them in power, whatever the case may be. So a lot of the problems that people face today, that we face today, are caused by the government thinking that they know better than we do and how we can run our lives.
I want to stay right there for just a sec. And then, Brock, I want to hear your thoughts on Nate's thoughts and this thought. If we believe we live in the greatest country ever, which I do, I believe we have more freedoms here and more opportunity than anywhere else, where did we go astray? Because do we believe that our nation was created on sound, you and me, this is how we are going to create the most certainty and control in our lifetimes, is by being at the you and me level? So something has gone awry from what this country was founded on, if we agree on that, and to where we are now. So Brock, what are your thoughts on kind of that thought process, if you do believe we're in the greatest country ever and that we do have more freedoms than anyone else and we are the wealthiest nation, in the general sense?
Yeah. I don't love talking about government type stuff and all that stuff, but I certainly believe we are in the wealthiest country in the world and have the most freedoms. If that wasn't the case, I don't think we'd have so many people trying to get here. I think about these things, not often, but every once in a while they'll come up. And when you think about our economy and how it is, I think it really has to go back to deeper roots of what went awry or wrong. And I think when you look at the people as a whole, majority of people have an entitlement problem and believe that they should just be, handed stuff, or they deserve something over another, or whatever it may be. And I think, when you go to economics and you understand how the velocity of money improves our economy, I think if more people understood that, we'd have a lot better system. But I think as we stick to the title of the podcast about the government's not going to save you, I think that really needs to make us aware of the fact that we've got to be diligent with our money. We have to actually pay attention to what's going on and be intentional about the moves that we make because of the fact of, if we just looked at Social Security, for example, Social Security is supposedly going to be gone by 2035. Well, that's just what, 10 years away from now?
Yep.
And somebody would say, well, how does that work? Well, economics class, okay?
Yeah.
But when we started, when Social Security started, there was like 6 people paying in for one person, and that was because people were dying at like 67. Well, people are living longer, so now I think it's like we have 2 people paying for one person, or like 1.5 person paying for one person, and the numbers are way over skewed. And I think you can't sit here and rely on whatever the government says that they're going to be able to do. You've got to actually put in the work and show up for your own life, because when you show up for your own life, things tend to work out okay, or a lot better than when somebody just hands you what's left over.
Brock, we didn't talk in depth on my notes before we started. Now, I'm going to encourage everybody listening to go do your own research, because Brock said 6. My notes actually say when Social Security was created, it was 16 workers for every retiree. So even if it's between 6 and 16, today it's around 2 to 3. And so that math doesn't math anymore. But it's also relevant to this reality that a one-size-fits-all approach will never always work for everybody forever. It may fit a few here, it may fit a few there. It may hit one person well at this stage of their life and another well at this stage of life, but it's not ever going to fully benefit you and me and what we need and what we desire and what we want to create in our lifetime related to our family and the things that matter to us the most, in our finances and our fitness and our faith and our health, all those things. And this jumps out at me a lot. Where else in our life do we abdicate someone else controlling it and get the results that we want that are most valuable for us? It'd be like me going, hey, Brock, I want to be 6'3", 198 and be able to bench 245 10 times, but I'm going to need you to go to the gym for me and take care of that. Just let me know how it goes, and then I'll benefit from it. We don't do this anywhere else in our life, but the number of conversations that you guys and I have daily about how we almost have just given away control of thinking intentionally is really where it starts. So intentionality and consistency in our world often gets mistaken for talent instead of just showing up and learning and growing every day. And so the government operates on a one-size-fits-all model, which I think we all would agree with no matter what program you're talking about. And at a very simple level, Nate, the more money the government prints, the less a dollar is worth. So that alone right there keeps money very simple, but it's often so missed because why do you see it's missed so often, Nate, when realizing the government's not going to save you?
One thing people need to understand is that the government doesn't create value. The value is created by the people, because if it wasn't for us and our tax dollars and everything like that, the government doesn't produce anything. So if it wasn't for us producing, then the government wouldn't really even have anything to work with to begin with. But also, our ability to work and create value is what gives them the freedom to print money, because that inflation tax, when money is printed, that creates inflation. That inflation tax gets put back on us and our ability to create value. And so it's a cycle where we're the producers and the government is the consumer.
Brock, anything you want to add to that, or we can kind of go into the thought process of, we talk a lot about being sure our plan works even when things don't go according to plan. And one of my favorite things to do on what we call the LEAP model, which your dad did for us a while back on one of our earlier podcasts, is I like to show people where, our castle is, which is our ability to create wealth and where it could flow. And most people always think about that castle and creating. I had this conversation this morning at breakfast. This member, who's a new member, who started this journey a year ago, he said, I'm having a hard time separating that I need to create value first and not just go make money. Because the better I become as far as creating value in the things that I'm created to do, then new opportunities will arise that I'm ready for. And I think the government has figured out, if you market and spend billions of dollars making people believe that this is the norm, then 80% or more people are going to do the norm, even if it's not what's best for them, until they are willing to go on a journey of exploring why they actually can take back control of how money flows through their life and will actually have more opportunity when they do so. So, Brock, what are your thoughts on that? What do you see in that regard? What kind of conversations do you have around that?
There's a lot of conversations.
Yeah.
I think one of the things so the government either needs our tax dollars or needs us to go create value to create a better economy. That is why the tax code was invented, right? So the government has no products other than getting our money. And the tax code, it's like if there was like a ratio, it'd be like 1 page shows you how to pay taxes, and like 1,000 pages tell you how to not to pay taxes. Well, how do you not pay taxes? Well, you help the government do the things that they need to do without them having to take your money to do it on their own. So create businesses to help with employment, buy real estate to help with housing, help pay for the energy so that there's more energy throughout the country, right? And there's so many other things that help with this, because if the government isn't the one spending the money on those things that make the economy better, that means we are, as the people, as the economy, which just continues to create more value. And I think that's what is lost a lot of times, is that economic function of the velocity of money, and how a dollar is just a measurement of value. It is the exchange of value. Because this morning you had money in your pocket, Brandon, and you went to breakfast. If that breakfast was $20, you said that breakfast means more to me than the $20 that I have in my pocket. So now you gave that restaurant $20 for what they thought was at least value of $20. Well, that business now gets to either give that back to their employees or back into their business to grow the business, which creates more dollar value or higher, faster exchange from the employee to the next thing. So I think that as we continue on in this conversation, there'll be more that comes out, but we have to be not realistic. We have to be aware of like how the economy works at some level and what it means for our involvement of what we need to be doing as the people and as a person over our own life.
We often have the conversation early on with somebody who is, and this is bravo to anybody that typically comes to us. They've either met somebody that already works with us and they're at least intrigued enough to learn what their friend or their cohort or whoever has told them. But there's a distinct characteristic that all of those conversations have, and that they're willing to go, there's something I'm missing, almost always, or to the best of my knowledge now, but I'm willing to learn. And I see over and over and over again where Nelson Nash, he wrote in Becoming Your Own Banker, we'll get to in a minute as far as whole life and how it can be used in our life. But he said, once we know what the problem is, we'll know what to do. Well, the only way we can really understand what the problem is be willing to get uncomfortable enough to discuss why we think the way we currently do and see if we're concrete on that thinking, or if there's something we didn't know that now we're looking into learning about. So the number of times I hear from people that we work with that I'm thinking of two right now, where they said almost verbatim, I didn't even know something like that was possible. It was specifically related to the tax code. It's been around forever. It's nothing abnormal. And then so I would ask them, I said, well, why do you think you didn't know that was even possible? Because it requires you to go a level deeper. And Brock, it goes back to what your point was earlier. The majority of the tax code is written for creators and producers to keep more of their money so that they can continue to create and produce. But it's like that. Y'all know those Chinese finger holds that would hold your fingers in and you couldn't. You've got some things happening here. You've got that side, which if it gets over 10 to 20% of knowing all that, could really put the government back in its place. On the other side, the government's like, we need the other 80% to pay taxes. And we need them to pay probably half of their money to us as often as possible so that we can keep creating these problems that we need to solve. And once you see that, I don't know if you are like me, but once I saw that, I could not unsee it. But it also allowed me to sift through a lot of the fluff that is out there that I was told needed to be believed, that is just at best, if we assume angelic intentions, misunderstanding. At worst, we'll leave that for another podcast. So, Nate, I see you nodding your head over there. What you got going on in your brain there?
Well, I mean, we started off by talking about gifts, and ironically, it was December of 2017 when you and I read this book, Becoming Your Own Banker. And so, what a great gift. And what it reminds me of is what you said earlier about people who just have this feeling in the back of their mind that there's got to be a better way. And we were just willing to explore different options, different ideas, and things like that to ultimately discover what we believe to be the absolute truth about money, how money works and everything like that. And most people, unfortunately, will never get to the point of understanding that we're at. And that's why we're just hopeful that every new relationship, every new connection is gonna be an expansion of knowledge where people can take hold of this truth, because the truth has so much freedom wrapped up in it. And when you understand how money works, then the reality of the future starts to become a little bit more hopeful, in my opinion.
I think that's opinion. I think that's something we see factually every day. When someone gets more certain on why they believe what they believe, then they get much more clear and focused on how they're going to accomplish it. And it's
And
like,
I
go
think
ahead.
sometimes, I think also sometimes when they have clarity, they have to have somebody in their corner that tells them, "Hey, it's okay to see that clarity and then
Yeah.
go after it and go get it."
Yep.
Because oftentimes what you'll see is people have these goals, these dreams about the things that they want to do, clarity around what they want their life to look like, and then they'll fall back into the pattern. Well, I can't do that because this and that, and all these things coming to do whatever. Well, yeah, if that's the approach that you want to take, right? You've got to every day, if you know what if you have clarity around the life that you want, every day you've got to put in the work, you've got to put in the time to continue to chase that dream, to continue to define the rules around how you want your life to operate, and it will work itself out.
Yeah, Brock, you're bringing up a great point there that's been like an aha for me in this last quarter of 2024. If I don't have clarity, that's still a system that's feeding my lack of clarity, because I'm not diving into what's going to be required for me to get more clarity on whatever that is, whatever that thinking is right now. And I can't get away from seeing the Pareto principle now, the 80-20 rule or the 20-80 rule, which basically just says that in any 100% thing, 20% of people are going to roughly do one thing, the other 80 are going to do the other. And normally the 20% creates the 80% of value, producer, consumer, same kind of thought process. But when you see that, you then realize that life is much less about figuring it out and much more about enjoying constantly figuring something new out, which leads to something else new to learn, and then something else new to learn, because you're expanding your thinking. And the world on that one side of that Chinese finger hold, and the government, is really, really good at making you believe what you know will never change, and you need to stay right there. Don't even look over there what you don't know, because something's wrong with that. Even though you're stuck where you're not happy where you are, you don't know what to do next.
I think a lot of people forget what it feels like to grow in something.
Ooh, that's good.
And learning and growing and expanding their human life value. Mike Isom, one of my mentors, who wrote the book What We're Worth, talks a lot about the fact of, like, we typically as humans feel the most fulfillment when we are growing ourselves, when we are increasing our human life value balance sheet on our asset side of things, learning new abilities, learning new gifts, learning new things to grow our knowledge. Because when we do that, we're chasing our dreams, but it's oftentimes we're not doing it on our own. Like, we have other people in our corner that we're doing it with. And even if we feel like we are doing it on our own, we all know we can't get anywhere by ourselves, that there's always going to be people that help us out. And as we work on ourselves, we impact those around us because they see the shift and then they become a part of it as well.
You just brought up a great point, Brock. We have to be willing to recognize that there is a direct correlation between growth and discomfort. Because if we're really leaning into something that is new to us, it is almost always likely that it's going to be uncomfortable for a little bit because it's a new way of thinking, or it's a new approach, or it's going to create some soreness. Let's go back to the gym. If I haven't worked out in 10 years and then I hire a trainer and I start working out 3-4 days a week, there's going to be a lot of discomfort. My muscles are going to be sore. My brain's going to be sore from learning a new way to do things that I've never thought about. Maybe my eating habits have to change, but that's still growth. That's still requiring friction. And so I always like to think about, big, gigantic trees out here in East Texas. The prettiest trees that are around, oak trees specifically, often have withstood the most challenges above ground. The most weather, the most wind, the most rain, the most tornadoes, but they're still standing because of what's going on underneath the ground, and how that root system has really anchored in. And I think you both are hitting on something very important. And Nelson's, I don't remember who said this in Becoming Your Own Banker, but I know Nelson refers to it. It's not what we don't know that's the problem. It's what we know that just isn't so.
That was Mark Twain.
Yeah, Mark Twain. Thank you. So I would encourage everybody listening, a practical step, just simple practical step. Write down on one piece of paper, where are you currently as it relates to your faith, your family, your fitness, and your finances, and what wealth and freedom means to you? Simple as that. Where are you in those areas? And are you on a path that you feel really confident about? If you are, and you feel really good about it, keep doing what you're doing. But if you feel like you are not headed where you want to go, or you're not living life on purpose, or you don't feel like you're bringing the value that God's created you to bring into this world, that is a great opportunity to do some introspection and to start looking at, where do I want to grow? And it's going to be uncomfortable because there's probably a lot of weeds in there that are going to have to be tilled up, going to require some work. And Brock, you just alluded to it. Nate, I know you and I was telling this guy this morning, one of the best places to do that is put at the top of your line items for your 2025 Q1 budget, even though I hate using that word, priority list, where you're going to invest in yourself to grow, and make it a number that makes you a little uncomfortable. I'm going to spend this amount of money to go to read this many books, to learn this many things, to hire this coach, wherever you are. And if you have no money, start with YouTube and free resources, and make it a goal to get to a line item that is, I promise you, Nate and Brock, y'all agree with this, I know, because Brock, you taught us this, and I think Garrett taught you. It does not take money to make money. Value is what needs to be created first, and you investing in yourself is the best place to start with value creation. Nate, I see your wheels turning.
Yeah, so along those lines, if you are the type that is thinking similar to the way we were, that there's got to be a better way, it costs $0 to have a conversation with us. Like, schedule a call. Let's just have a conversation, see where that goes.
And Nate, I would lean into that. I think that's very important, to go as compared to what, which is one of my favorite questions. Because if I don't reach out and make myself uncomfortable, because we forget this, I know we do. For someone to commit to getting on someone's schedule to ask questions about something they don't even know that they don't know yet, or they're just learning, is a commitment that is in line with, how am I going to bring new value into my life? Because I'm going to be taking a step into something I don't understand and deciding what I'm going to do with that new information, or nothing. But what I love about that is that when you know there's a possible new truth, you also then will be haunted if you do nothing about it. And you're going to have in the back of your mind this reality of, like, I know that's possible now, even if I believe it or don't believe it. You're going to go back and forth between what has to happen for me to get concrete on this. That's healthy. That's how the most successful people in any walk of life, as a parent, as a father, as a pastor, as a ball player, anything you think of, they keep leaning into discomfort, which are kind of just steps and stepping stones to the next best version that we're created to be. And Nate, if you'd have told me 10 years ago, well, let's talk about before we were Becoming Your Own Banker. If you'd have told me I was going to be a vivacious reader, an applier of reading, if you'd have told me I was going to gladly connect people and get on people's schedules as if it's just second nature now, I'd have been like, there's no way. That's not normal. But what I know that's normally the case is there's some kind of pain that's going on in someone's life, either through recognition of, I'm not getting where I thought I was going to go and there's got to be more, or I don't feel like I am in line with what God's created me to do, my purpose and my, the way that I'm able to do it. But Nate, for you and I, there was pain. The pain was, if we keep doing what we've been doing, we're not going to get to where we think we want to go, even though that was hazy. And so there was a vulnerability there of, like, I got to trust somebody, because trusting in myself only has not got me, it's got me to this point. So I don't think pain's a bad thing all the time. What do y'all think on that as it relates to this whole conversation about becoming aware of what's really going on?
Absolutely.
Pain creates action and reminds us that we're doing something.
Yeah. I always think about the I guess you'd call it a speech, the speech of the man in the arena. you'll always have critics that are sitting outside the arena telling you, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're not going to work out, all these things. But you're the one who's in the arena that's feeling the pain and going through the actions to create a better life for yourself. And I think you've got to be able to get uncomfortable with all of that. I think about some of the conversations we've had. A lot of times people come to us and they'll ask us, they'll say, well, I don't know where to put my money. Well, obviously, if you don't know where to put your money, you got to go learn something, right? Unless you're just somebody who isn't disciplined, who doesn't want to take any intentionality, doesn't want to be diligent, doesn't want to be responsible, then hand your money over to somebody else. But if you are wanting to be somebody who is diligent, someone who is intentional, someone who knows they want more out of this life than just, walking through the motions, then you've got to invest in yourself. And if you invest in yourself first, that will eventually tell you where your money should go. And, this isn't like hey, you did it once and you're done. Like, it's a constant improvement of where you are putting your dollars. Like, for me, I've been in the industry right over 9 years, I think, and right out of high school. And I think about, I spend mid six figures a year, or let me take that back. I invest mid six figures a year in my education and my growth, because I know that is where your true value will show up. That is where wealth will be created. That is where you will be able to create more value going forward in your own life. And I would say, if there's anybody listening to this that's always hears people talk about, well, you need to go do your goals, you need to go do this, you need to write these things out. If you don't know where to start, you can shoot us a message. I have a worksheet that my friend Dave Allred put out. The dude's just an amazing guy, massive just person in the real estate world, and yet he goes through this almost every single day. And so if you want, you can shoot us a message. We'll get that to you so that you have something to work on to get intentional about your goals for this year.
I think that's a really good reminder, Brock, of what we love about what we do is if it doesn't matter to you the most, then we can't help you. And that's relevant in any walk of life. One thing I see often is we are where we are because of the thinking and the way we speak to ourselves and the way we behave related to where we are, which keeps us there. And a lot of times it's going to be very uncomfortable, but that's often the area that we need to lean into the most. Why do I believe this? Because I say this all the time, the thinking that got us here is not going to be the thinking that gets us to the next place. So one of my favorite things to do is introduce one of our members to somebody else or to a new concept or to a new idea. And they go, oh my gosh, I didn't know that there were people that did this. And that seems more sound than what I've been doing with less risk. Why do I not know this already? And then I encourage them, let's lean into why do you not know that? Is it your circle? Is it the fact that you stayed a recluse because you don't want anyone else to know what you've been doing and it's kept you where you are? I had a delicate conversation the other day about tithing where they invited me in to ask very tough questions. And I said, is this important to you? Yes, it is. Well, have you been doing it? No, we haven't. Well, why haven't you? I was just going full Brock mode on them. Okay. So lots of whys, because the more confident you are in why you do or don't do something, the more confident you are entering the arena. You're in the right arena. And actually the 80 people booing you or questioning you are giving you confirmation that you're on the right path, as opposed to being in the crowd, which is where the government wants you to be, focused on what they're going to do for you, instead of you being in the arena going, what matters to me? Maybe I want to be able to spend every waking second with my family volunteering for the next 20 years of my life because I know it's pleasing to the Lord. If you think that's a bad idea and the Lord's laid that on your heart, then there's a lot of reckoning to occur with how you view money. I mean, really, think about that.
If you can't give a large amount of money away in your life, your money has a lot more control on you than you have on it.
We heard this not too long ago on a series one of our members sent us, but he said everything that we own, we are very at peace, even though we grapple with this a lot. Everything we own is God's own loan. And every level we can go up to the next level probably almost always requires test to be sure that we're going to be capable of being good stewards of that new information or that new quality of information or the new genuineness of being humble and how we present it to people so that we don't ever get all chest bowed out thinking we know everything, because that's pride and that can definitely happen for all of us. So don't forget, Brock just gave you a great resource. All you got to do is send us a message. You can do it in the YouTube comments. You can send us a message through cashflowlegends.com. You can get on our schedules from there. Any of that is something that we love doing. If you are of the mindset right now that I don't want to waste somebody's time because I don't know enough to ask the right questions, that is confirmation that you need to do something like we just mentioned, or you will stay right there. This is coming from somebody who's very experienced at staying in the place that's hurting them the most for a long time for no logical reason, because he didn't have people around him saying, why are you doing that? All right. Now I got people everywhere saying, why do you do that? And it gets on my nerves sometimes, but I know it's good for me because it helps you grow. So guys, the government's not going to save us. Who wants to be the hero of someone else's play anyway? So how can we become a hero in our own life, with our own family, with our own friends and fellowship and all that? And then what are actionable steps? I am certain that anyone listening or watching, if you committed to a full year of growing in the areas that you know the least about, but you know you need to know more about, the value that will come from that and clarity that will come from that and what you do next will be almost unfathomable. It really will be. We appreciate everybody listening. We're so grateful that everybody takes time to share their time with us, the most valuable resource that we all have that we don't control in the grand scheme of things. So if you want to check us out on cashflowlegend.com, that's a great place to start. Shoot us a comment. We all hope you have a phenomenal or have had a phenomenal Christmas, and you remember the true greatest gift ever given. Till next time.